Hokie Hangover, live on YouTube, youtube.com/at Hokie Hangover podcast. We are back, all three of us, to preview Virginia Tech's tilt with Georgia Tech this weekend. Homecoming game, huge one for a lot of reasons. Virginia Tech still stays in the ACC race if you win this game. Virginia Tech is one step closer to bowl eligibility if you win this game. Virginia Tech's one step closer to maybe breaking into top 25 rankings before they play Clemson in a couple weeks if you win this game. So this is a big one this weekend against a team that I think Virginia Tech will be able to measure itself up well against. I wanted to start tonight by talking about basketball very, very quickly. We're going to do a full basketball preview. We're thinking probably next week. We're just inside 2 weeks to opening tip. But it broke this afternoon. Virginia Tech officially announced it. Then my colleague, actually, Pat Forty at Sports Illustrated, broke the news. Virginia Tech point guard Hysier Miller, transfer from Temple, was expected to be the starting point guard on the team this year. Virginia Tech recruited him out of the transfer portal, landed his commitment. Virginia Tech knew that Temple was under investigation for potentially point shaving. Hysier Miller was not initially caught up in that. He was a member of that team from a year ago that was being investigated, but was not caught up in that. But apparently new information has come to light over the past month, and Hysier Miller has been dismissed from the Virginia Tech basketball program. Virginia Tech put it very eloquently in their statement, basically saying that his dismissal was due to circumstances prior to his enrollment at Virginia Tech. That's a really nice way to say that, whoops, this isn't good. And, Pat Forty confirmed that Hysier Miller's dismissal had to do with his involvement in the Temple basketball investigation into point shaving. Andrew, I have one takeaway. This program is cursed.
Yeah, dude. I mean, honestly, I'm glad that we didn't try to get ahead of a basketball preview in mid-October or something like that. I mean, you and me, both, Ricky as well, we're all big fans of the basketball program. Something that a lot of other, more football-oriented podcasts might not be so eager to touch on. We're eager to touch on it. And Miller would have been the name that we would have been talking about in that preview as that potential saving grace, the guy that might be able to pop off a little bit and maybe, keep you out of the basement of the ACC. Well, evidently no longer. Ricky LeBlue.
The second we started to get to the Hysier Miller stuff, my Wi-Fi to absolutely.
Yeah, your Wi-Fi is still in extremely bad shape, Ricky, and we are live.
Yeah, well, nothing quite like a live show. Really quick, before I maybe try and fix this, the Hysier Miller stuff is extremely annoying, considering we're supposed to be starting here soon.
Ricky, unfortunately, dude, Ricky, you're so choppy, your point's not going to come across as good as you would hope. Yeah.
There he goes. Off he goes. Well, we're off to a hot start this evening.
As too is Virginia Tech's basketball season. but yeah.
What's going worse?
It just makes me go back to think about things like, Cartier Jada, right? I remember me and Ricky talking big game about him in the basketball preview back in 2020, which is now an increasingly long time ago. But, that blows up in your face. Rodney Rice blows up in your face. Point guards who we've interviewed on this podcast as 4-star recruits have now played for 6 different schools since then. And quite frankly, maybe the content of the interview might have led you to believe that, hindsight being 2020. But, man, it's tough. And, as I jokingly texted you back when you brought the news to my attention today and to Ricky's attention as well in our group chat, bring back James Johnson. Bring him back.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just down the
If
road.
only If only there was a staffer with the football program who has coached basketball before.
Yes, someone who's been there before. Come on.
Someone who's been there before. Hey, by the way, we are joking. He can keep doing his football thing I almost said with Mike Young. He can keep doing his football thing with Brent Pry. That's good. That's good with us, I think.
You can keep doing that.
That's good with us.
Seems like it's going well, at least recently.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
2 episodes
I agree.
from now, we might be like drawing at straws if we lose to Syracuse. Be like, the football operation, this is just failing. You brought in a basketball guy, but for now, James Johnson, your job is safe on this podcast.
So far, so good. I have no reason to fire you yet. We will. We'll get into like I said up top. We'll get into basketball more next week. It's just a story that broke this afternoon, and we got a lot to cover on the football front tonight, and not a ton of time. So we're just
Full
gonna
preview coming soon.
Yeah, this leaves Virginia Tech's backcourt situation once again in a really precarious situation. And this year you don't have a Sean Padula to remedy it, so it's going to be Brandon Rexsteyer or a true freshman Ben Hammond. Those are your options at point guard, and maybe it works out fine. But for now, yeah, we'll see. Onto the football front, Virginia Tech's homecoming game Saturday at noon against Georgia Tech. A Georgia Tech program that right now is banged up at quarterback. They are banged up basically on the interior of their defense, interior defensive line, Mike linebacker. They're pretty banged up there. It's an improved defense from a year ago, but is a defense that is missing pieces right now and looked really bad defensively a week ago against Notre Dame. Now, yes, it's Notre Dame, but Georgia Tech's defense, man, they had a lot of trouble tackling last Saturday. But while it's an improved unit, I think it's going to be interesting to see Virginia Tech's rushing attack in particular on Saturday against Georgia Tech's rushing defense, which did not look particularly good last Saturday against Notre Dame, and it's been kind of up and down all throughout the year so far.
I mean, yeah, it comes down to like Bashal Tootin, right? I mean, can he keep doing what he's been doing? And obviously, I've been in LA, I've been at a wedding, I've missed the last couple of podcasts here, but he has clearly separated himself into a different conversation. He is moving from like the Omari and Hampton conversation to like the Ashton Jeanty conversation at the rate he's going. And I know some of you guys aren't like sickos like us. What that means is he's going from very good to potentially all-American level great. You know, maybe first, second team, all ACC level great. And from what I've seen from Georgia Tech's defense, which, as you mentioned, a little bit banged up, it shouldn't necessarily be too much of a threat, right? I mean, yeah, maybe it's a battle of mid versus mid, but when Virginia Tech has an entity within its own program, an individual player, unlike that we've seen since David Wilson, it shouldn't particularly matter if you play your cards right, especially when you have what on paper is at least the second best receiving core in a decade, right? Like, and a quarterback who is a threat to run in and of himself. That's what makes this offense, and when you watch it hum, so powerful, right? You can hand the ball to the best player on the field. You have a quarterback who can take it himself. And you have a quarterback who can put the ball in the hands of a plethora of targets, whether that be Jennings, whether that be Felton, Lane, Gosnell, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
There's so much balance that if you can script the right plays, obviously like this team is going to go out and beat Alabama, but if you lose to Georgia Tech, if you lose to Syracuse, if you lose to Rutgers, that's a failure on the part of the people guiding the team. So at the end of the day, for me, it comes down to, can Tyler Bowen do what he did against Stanford, what he did exceptionally well in the first half against Boston College, and what I'll give him a lot of credit for doing well against Miami. And that is that early game script, which they are dedicated to sticking to, having that balance and working, and just don't put yourself in a hole. I had a long conversation with my good friend Nathan Brennan today on The Drive with Nels Williams on ESPN Blacksburg, the program I used to be the host of myself. And we thought back to this rivalry with Georgia Tech. And both of us, as kind of the elder statesmen in a room with Nels, who's like 23, back to 2016, right? Tech's ranked number 18, 14-point favorites against Georgia Tech, backup quarterback in.
Backup center.
You're going into more details than I am. But that was a game that Virginia Tech should not have lost. Alas, Georgia Tech goes up, Mike, was it 18 or 19 nothing and a half? And different team, different era, certainly a different coach with Paul Johnson, who Georgia Tech never should have gotten rid of. Shout out to our friend Joey Weaver. But yeah, it was just a hard game to come back in. So just don't put yourself in a hole. Virginia Tech they're not handicapped by playing from behind. We saw that against Vanderbilt, a game that they ultimately lost against a team that now we know is a little bit better than we thought they were. But when you are playing with the lead and you can play at your own tempo, run the ball, throw the ball, like it's a good situation. So hot starts are going to be pivotal, but nothing about Georgia Tech particularly scares me.
On the defensive side of the football, this is one of the worst defenses Virginia Tech's played so far. And truthfully, you look at the schedule, it's at least with the power conference opponents, I think this is one of the worst defenses Virginia Tech's played. I really went and hammered the point home about Boston College's rushing defense. It was ranked 25th nationally coming into that game last week, and looked at Boston College's schedule, and it was pretty apparent that Virginia Tech was the best rushing attack that Boston College had faced so far. Same with Stanford. Like, Stanford's rushing defense, I think, is better than Boston College's, and Virginia Tech didn't necessarily run the ball as efficiently against Stanford as they did against Boston College, obviously, where Bashal Tutin set a school record. But Tech kept hammering the running game against Stanford, and the dam eventually broke. They obviously kept hammering the running game against Boston College, and there was no resistance there outside of Virginia Tech turning the ball over. And Virginia Tech hammered the running game against Miami as well, and things went really well offensively in that football game. Stalled out a little bit there in the second half, but overall Virginia Tech scored enough points to win that football game. So Virginia Tech's offense has been really good over the last month. Right? They're 2-1 in their last 3 games. They've been playing really well. Things have been going and trending in a really good direction with the running game in particular. And Kyron Drones, I think, has been really good over the last month. He had that really ugly interception against BC last week, but I think overall he's been pretty good. Had a good game against Stanford. Thought he was great against Miami. I thought he was pretty good against Boston College, especially in the first half when he was asked to throw the ball a bit more. So, Virginia Tech's been rolling offensively. Tyler Bowen's been good. The play calling's been good, and the execution has been better. Right? It's been better in the last month than it was in the early part of the year, obviously. So I think Virginia Tech's offense will be able to score here. I think just continue to do what you've been doing. Outside zone run and hammer that and continue to press the issue there, because that opens everything else up. It opens up the zone read for drones up the middle of the defense. It opens up all the inside zone stuff for Tutin. It opens up the rollout passing game, which drones is so effective at, right? Everything plays off of that outside zone run that Virginia Tech's been so good at over the last month. So I think continue to hammer that in this game against a banged up Georgia Tech defense and control clock. On the other side of the field, Virginia Tech's defense, it's been very bend but don't break, I think we would say. That's kind of been the mantra this year. A little bit better at giving up the explosive plays. That was something that was a real issue last year. the one thing I want to mention here, Andrew, is the obvious, right? Georgia Tech, Haynes King, starting quarterback, is banged up. Colby Crawford from VT Scoop said that King is out. Nobody else has said that yet, but it's trending in a direction. He's obviously very banged up. Brent Key didn't want to say one way or another. I would be surprised if he plays. Zach Pyron is a quarterback who's come into Blacksburg as a true freshman and has beaten Virginia Tech already. I think the big difference in this matchup is there's more film on Zach Pyron now, right? And to be honest with you, I think, if you're a Georgia Tech fan, I think you'd rather have Haynes King in this game than Zach Pyron, right? I think, obviously, he's your starting quarterback. I think what makes more of a difference if I'm a Virginia Tech fan is that Georgia Tech's defense is really banged up rather than who they're going to see at quarterback. The quarterbacks are pretty similar in style. Haynes King a bit more effective. So I'm interested kind of to see how Virginia Tech adapts there. Another thing I wanted to note really quickly is Jaden Keller, who's been playing a lot and playing pretty well at Mike linebacker, looks like he may be starting potentially. He was listed with an or on the depth chart with Sam Brumfield, who I don't know if I want to label Sam Brumfield a disappointment. I think he's been fine. He's an upgrade based on what Virginia Tech had at Mike linebacker last year when Keller wasn't playing as well. So I think he's an upgrade in that regard. But I think all of us were hoping for a little bit more out of Sam Brumfield. And the emergence of Jaden Keller makes it so that, I think Keller might be starting to overtake him at that position with how he's played the last few weeks.
Well, Mike, first of all, we have Ricky in LeBlue, which is fantastic. Ricky, welcome back to the program, sir. What Wi-Fi company do I have to write an angry letter to?
That would be Cox.
Cox.
Which if
Adequately named.
Yeah, correct. In this area, they have a bit of a monopoly. But, Mike, I did catch your point about Sam Brumfield. And, I mean, I don't want to be too harsh on the guy, but he hasn't really played up to, I think, the level a lot of us were hoping that he would. Considering the guy was an all-conference player at Middle Tennessee State, and if you're an all-conference player at Middle Tennessee State under Rick Stockstill, you should be bringing some pretty good chops to the program.
There it is.
And he just hasn't really done that.
About that. Andrew's fired up about that one.
Yeah. And, I mean, to Jaden Keller's credit, he has played, but I'm not sure that I'm not sure that Jaden Keller is still bringing a ton to the Mike position at this moment. So maybe I'm missing it. I know he's been receiving some praise this week, and he's now elevated to an or on the depth chart, like you said. But this game will certainly be a test for this rush defense, considering this is one of the best backs they're going to face all year.
Yeah, Jamal Haynes, really good. Really good. I think for everything we mentioned about the Georgia Tech defense, which has not been great and has been banged up, I think what we can say about Jamal Haynes is this is one of, if not the best back that Virginia Tech will face on the entire schedule. And everything runs through Haynes. Jamal Haynes. They rely on Haynes King a bunch if he plays. He's not going to be 100%. If he doesn't play, Pyron is a similar quarterback. They are similar stylistically. But everything for the Georgia Tech offense runs through Jamal Haynes. And Ricky, to your point you just made, this is going to be a definite test of the rushing defense this week. Andrew, what do you got?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, when it comes to Brumfield, if he's it's hard to call him like a bust, right? Because I don't think he's been absolutely terrible. But if having that pressure on the depth chart is causing a guy like Jaden Keller to turn that corner, maybe that's not the worst thing in the world for Virginia Tech. Like, there are homegrown guys in this room. There always have been. But over the course of the last two seasons, and even early on this season, it seems like it's been a have not or a stall out, one way or the other. So if you have Brent Pry out here saying for two straight games, a guy who, I don't know what the deal is, right? I'm not in practice every day. No one is, no matter what level of access you have as a reporter. But every single offseason, it's been Jaden Keller, Jaden Keller, Jaden Keller. And then we get to the regular season and it's been something of a goose egg.
Yeah.
So to have that hype finally amount to something on film in a real game that I can watch myself, that's encouraging. And that's progress for not only a player or a group of players, but a staff who seems to have all the expertise in the world at linebacker. I was always very controversial, or not controversial, but skeptical of the idea that Sam Brumfeld, as the guy who was playing under Rick Stockstill at Middle Tennessee, and he was like a second team all conference USA player. And on film, he showed a good game against, Alabama, that he was going to come in and be this like first team all ACC guy. I think the guys in the room were always better equipped for that. And if that's the case, so be it. If it's the spoils of the richest situation, even better. But I got no problem with any decisions that are being made in that room right now. It just comes down to execution, right? Because we can say it during the week and then we revert back to our old selves and Haynes runs free and we're all scratching our heads after a loss on Monday, right?
That would suck. That would certainly suck. Georgia Tech's got a good offense, for sure. Defense, not so much. This points to a game where if you like points, I think you'll find them. I think the real critical area for Virginia Tech's defense in particular, an area where they have had some more success over the last month, is in the red zone defensively. I think you got to hold Georgia Tech to field goals here. Big reason why you lost that game a couple of years ago when Zach Pyron came into Blacksburg as a true freshman and beat you. A big reason why was because you got yourself into a hole early, and then you were really trying to dig out from that, and it didn't go so swell. And I don't think Georgia Tech's got a defense where Virginia Tech, even if they fall behind early, is ever going to be out of this game. Because I really do believe this is one of the worst defenses, at least as currently constituted, on Virginia Tech's schedule. It's been bad, and I think Virginia Tech's going to be in the mix with how they've played offense over the last month.
Mike, let me ask you a question. Of the ACC teams that Virginia Tech has played so far, so Boston College, Stanford, obviously we'll say Miami's the best. Where does Georgia Tech's defense rank among those teams? Last?
I would say it's kind of like Miami's defense, which isn't very good. I mean, Miami's defense is pretty bad. It's kind of like Miami's defense. It's got probably, I think Georgia Tech's got more talent defensively, just from player standpoint, more talent than Stanford or Boston College. I think they probably have a better defense than BC. I'm not sure they have a better defense than Stanford. And they give up points like Miami. So they're kind of in that mold. And couple that with the fact they're just really banged up right now. They're pretty hurt on the interior of the defense, interior defensive line and linebacker. They've been missing guys, shuffling guys. It's been a mess. And they are better than they were last year, and that's a low bar to clear. They were really, 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 really bad defensively last year. They are better, for sure. They're better than they were last year.
And to our listeners, by the way, Mike McDaniel probably knows more about Georgia Tech than any Virginia Tech fan because he does a twice weekly podcast with the biggest Georgia Tech fan I've ever met.
Yep. And he would tell you probably the same exact thing I just did. Maybe he has a slightly different ranking among the 3 ACC teams that Virginia Tech's played, but I guess my point is, regardless of kind of where you stack Georgia Tech's defense based on who Virginia Tech's played so far, at least in the ACC, regardless of kind of where you stack them, Virginia Tech's not going to see anything on Saturday defensively that they haven't seen already, I guess is what I would say, right? That they can't have success against. Now, the real tell here for Virginia Tech is can you continue to get off the field defensively, right? Can you force field goals and, continue to limit explosive plays like you have, right? Because Virginia Tech's done a better job of limiting explosive plays, but it's been a lot of bend but don't break. As long as you don't break on Saturday, going up against this banged up Georgia Tech defense, I think you will be fine, especially at home. But if you start giving up some explosive plays and some points, and there are explosive plays to be had with Jamal Haynes and what he's able to do in the running game, this could be pretty tight on Saturday. But I think Virginia Tech's 10.5-point favorite right now for a reason. I think, number one, the quarterback situation at Georgia Tech. Number two, I think really how banged up they are defensively. I think that's almost a bigger piece, in my opinion, to this.
For sure. And an interesting part of it, too, will be, can Virginia Tech have another fast start? I mean, they've had 3 straight games where the Hokies have gotten out of the gates without any issues, and it's really set the tone for the remainder of the game. And obviously they've won 2 of those, and we can argue about whether or not they should have won the other one. So this offense has gotten off to really good starts. If they do have a start like they did against Vanderbilt or a start like they did against Rutgers, the Georgia Tech defense is certainly gettable in the second half. But given this offense, and by this offense, I mean Virginia Tech's offense, is so much better leaning on the run game, you don't want to get yourself in a position, even against this defense, where you're having to throw the ball a ton downfield. We've seen over the last few weeks, this offense is much better when Kyron is only throwing 18 to 23 passes, and anything other than that, you're really starting to get out of your element, especially with a running back like Tootin. So this defense, while gettable, I still would not want Virginia Tech to dig themselves another hole, because this offense just is not built to get themselves out of that hole quite as well as maybe we thought they would be coming into the year.
Well, can you think of any good examples of a game where Virginia Tech has, with Kyron Drones at quarterback, with the current regime coaching, dug themselves into a hole and successfully gotten out of it and won the game? Is there one?
Not off.
Did they ever trail against Liberty 2 years ago?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Either. That would be the candidate, maybe.
All right. Here's a trivia question for you guys.
But that wasn't under Kyron, right?
No.
So,
that was under Grant Wells.
I mean, if
But
we're looking at just the last year and a half, I can't think of a game off the top of my head. I mean, we could go back and look, but like this offense is so much better when they're playing either in a tight game or if they're leading. If they're trailing, they're not Georgia or Texas or Alabama or Miami, where they can score 3 touchdowns in quick succession and all of a sudden put themselves back in the game or put themselves in front.
Well, to be fair, they've shown their ability to score quickly. It's once they get right back to the point of competitiveness, they stall out. We saw that against Vanderbilt. We saw that against Rutgers, and nonetheless. But trivia question: when was the last time Virginia Tech won an ACC game by less than 17 points?
I mean, this is in the Justin Fuente era we're looking at, right?
Yeah, something like that.
It's the JC Price game.
Yes, sir.
Damn. All right.
So yeah,
that's a hell of a poll, Andrew.
That is a hell of a poll.
That's why you bring me here.
So we're coming up on 3. We're coming up on 3 full calendar years ago since they won an ACC game by less than 17 points.
So you're saying I need to stop predicting close finishes in conference games? That's what you're telling me.
So I was on my way to
they win.
On my way to the BC game. I called Nathan Brennan, friend of mine, and he goes, "Yeah, I just bet," because it was 7.5. He goes, "I bet Tech to cover and Boston College money line. I'm safe no matter what." Tech doesn't win 1-score games in ACC play. They'll either win by a lot or they'll lose.
Or they'll lose, yeah.
I'm like, you literally, that as stupid as you sound, there is so much evidence to back that up. There's like 10 games, more than 10 games of evidence.
We've gone an entire tenure so far. An entire tenure without winning an ACC game by less than 17 points.
It's like coaches come and go in the period of sample size that you have to back up your point. So good for you. And maybe it will be a one-score game, and hopefully we'll win if it is. Vegas seems to think, ever since my boy Colby, who, by the way, I trust Colby's word. I talk to Colby every day. I do not know his sources. He would not reveal it to me. He's a journalist of integrity. But I believe him. and when Brent Key is coming out here and saying, some reporter, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, of course you want to make it sound like Haynes King's going to play. You want everyone to prepare for all options, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just like Ollie Jennings was probable against Marshall last year and ended up being out for the season.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's Virginia Tech versus a backup quarterback. Ricky, I think you might have been offline at the time when we started talking about this before. Going back to, this is going to hit you hard. 2016, backup quarterback for Georgia Tech, 14-point favorites.
Yep.
At home at Lane. You can never count your chickens.
Nope.
But this is a game that Tech should win. And if they do, it'll be the first time the Tech takes down the Yellow Jackets at Lane Stadium since 2012. Isn't that
which something? I was not even a student at Virginia Tech yet in 2012.
But Mike probably was, but
I was.
I believe Mike. Yeah, I think sophomore. Mike was. I said this on X earlier this week. If Zach Pyron is the starter, I still don't think that Virginia Tech's defense is going to have an easy time in this game. He's too much of an athlete. He's too good in the red zone. Georgia Tech runs the ball pretty well. They're going to be able to take some shots downfield. Pyron played, I think, better than a lot expected against Notre Dame. He's certainly a very capable backup quarterback. And once they get in the red zone, Georgia Tech's going to run the football. You just don't know who's going to run it. They've got like 22 rushing touchdowns this year to just 10 passing touchdowns, which is pretty incredible. And it's pretty one-sided and usually not the way that it is. But you got to give credit to this Georgia Tech offense, regardless of who's going to play quarterback. And if Pyron is the guy, it certainly benefits the guys on the back end that they're going to be able to man up more in this game than they would if Haynes King is playing. But even, Mike, I think it was you that mentioned, even if Haynes is playing, he's certainly not going to be 100%.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We'll see what Virginia Tech has to offer. I think the story of this game is continue to get stops in the red zone and then continue to do what you've been doing with the outside zone run game offensively, because that's been really effective, and Georgia Tech hasn't really shown ability to stop it based on what I've seen so far. ACC rapid fire picks, because I got an ACC podcast to record here in a 2-podcast evening for me. We're going to roll through these 8 ACC games this weekend, including Virginia Tech's 2 weeknight games, including a Thursday night banger, gentlemen. Syracuse traveling to number 19 Pittsburgh Thursday night. Pitt a 6-point favorite. Who you got?
I'm all aboard with Kyle McCord. Syracuse +6, baby.
Yeah, give me Syracuse with the points.
Okay, sure.
Pitt's got to lose at some point.
They do. I just don't know if it's going to be this one. I'm actually going. I think I'm going with Pitt. Like I always say to Joey, pick subject to change, but I'm going with Pitt. I think. Louisville, Boston College, Friday night. Louisville 7.5-point favorite up in Chestnut Hill. I can't believe I'm doing this. Give me BC +7.5. They stink. They stink. But
I'll take the Cards. BC is really falling in my eyes.
They stink, but weird line. They should be like a 2-touchdown favorite.
I'm with Ricky. I no longer believe in Bill O'Brien after what I saw last Thursday.
Understood.
I believe in Bill
Carolina.
O'Brien. I don't believe in that roster. I think that roster sucks.
Carolina, yeah. That's a more accurate statement. Carolina traveling to Virginia on the CW. UVA a 4-point favorite, but they're playing on the CW, so give me Carolina.
Heartbreaker for UVA last week. They really needed that one. Man, I don't know. I'll take Carolina.
I hate to go, fully all the same here, but 2 words: Omarion Hampton. Give me Carolina.
Yeah, good player. Wake Forest traveling to Stanford, 3:30 ACC Network. Wake a 3-point favorite on the road in Palo Alto.
Whoa! Why do I have to go to a noon game? Wake Forest Stanford is it 3:30?
Anybody?
I get it.
Because
Time
it's
zones.
noon
Time
on the
zones.
West
Time
Coast,
zones.
baby.
Well, it's ridiculous that this is even a situation either way. Give me Stanford.
Anybody watching this? I don't. What?
Some sickos will watch this. Give me the Deeks. Mike's like, yep, that's me.
That's me.
Are you gonna bet on that?
Well, think about it. Give me. Oh man, give me Stanford home dog +3. Why not? Oregon State traveling to Cal. Cal is a 10-point favorite again. They keep doing this. Multiple score favorite. They were a 2-touchdown favorite against NC State last weekend and found a way to lose. I don't know. Whatever. Give me Cal. I mean, Oregon State's, give me Oregon State +10. Give me Cal outright.
Cal may be meeting the same fate as their communist idols. Give me the Beavs.
Give me Beavs. Said that before. Andrew.
Big Jade Knott guy. Give me Cal.
See if he plays. He's on every other week routine. Florida State traveling to Miami. Miami's a 3-touchdown favorite. Is anybody in their right mind picking Florida State at this point? I am done with the Seminoles. I am absolutely done.
Say anyone?
It would be very, very hilarious, though, Mike. If
it would be funny.
If it would be funny here,
would be funny.
Yeah, I'm taking the Canes.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's 21?
21, yep.
Give me Florida State. Why not?
Okay. Well, that's a disgusting pick.
They
SMU.
could barely beat Cal. They could barely beat Cal. I don't know.
Yeah.
Florida State has beaten Cal.
I'm just saying, and we can touch on this at a later date. At a later date, the Miami is going to cruise to undefeated after they almost lose every week and get bailed out thing. Like, give them the 21-point spread. See what happens. Maybe the refs will back them up for that too.
There it is.
There it is.
Maybe
SMU. Man, you got more faith in him.
Last year. I don't know.
I was gonna say you got more faith in Norvell than the Florida State fan base at this point. Number 22 SMU traveling to Duke. 8:00 ACC Network. SMU 11.5-point favorite. Yep, give me the ponies.
I did put a year-long ban on Duke. However, the Duke defense is legit. Give me the Devils with the points. Home dog, double-digit home dogs? No way. Give me Duke.
Anyone who's been listening to this podcast for an extended period of time knows that I will say, don't doubt Duke. Yeah, they can cover 11. I don't think they'll win, but they can cover 11.
They can. I just don't know if they will. Virginia Tech hosting Georgia Tech noon on Saturday. ACC Network. Virginia Tech a 10.5-point favorite. Guys, I'll give you the floor. I always make my pick first. I'll let you guys go first this week.
I'll go ahead and start in case my Wi-Fi cuts out again.
Good deal.
This game is not entirely dependent on whether or not Haynes King plays. Virginia Tech is the better football team here. They're playing the better football. They are healthier. Virginia Tech has kind of been iffy at home in these situations, but last week was a big one for the Hokies on Thursday night. I'll take Virginia Tech to win this game. And you know what? I got to go with the trend. They're going to cover here. it's very normal of me to pick Virginia Tech to win close because I still don't think that their margin is all that big against these
and
teams.
they never do.
And they never do. They always win in blowouts. I'll take Virginia Tech here, 34-21.
Over.
I am right there with Ricky. I think that Virginia Tech is by far the better football team. I think that Virginia Tech really can only lose to themselves in a situation where Georgia Tech is playing a backup quarterback. I'll pick Virginia Tech by 17. You guys can pick the numbers. They'll win by 17. They will keep the streak going.
67-50. There we go.
It won't
Ooh,
be
baby.
that. It'll be like 33
scoring
to
more than
16
basketball
or
team.
something like that. Who knows? And that, my friends, is why you got to subscribe to the podcast to see why the basketball team is going to score 40 points per game. But yeah, I got Tech to win and cover. Alt spread 14. Bet it safe. You heard it from me. Don't call me later.
Oh my God, betting alt spreads.
Remember the Virginia Tech NC State game in basketball where it was like 40-26 or whatever?
That's a where were you when moment for this.
Yeah.
Days. I was at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Feels like I was on my couch. I feel like this is going to be one of those types of basketball seasons. I will close this out by saying that I don't know if Virginia Tech's going to cover the spread, but I do think they're going to win by like 10-ish. So I'm going to go Virginia Tech 34, Georgia Tech 24. I really like the over if you're going to bet this game. That's one of my favorite plays this week is the over in this game. Too many yards and points to be had. I don't think Georgia Tech's quarterback situation matters that much in terms of that. I do think Virginia Tech wins. Georgia Tech's defense really banged up. Virginia Tech's offense really rolling. And Virginia Tech's defense is better than it is. Virginia Tech's defense, I don't know if it's better than Georgia Tech's offense necessarily, but I think in terms of like Virginia Tech's defense versus Georgia Tech's defense, I like Virginia Tech's defense. Virginia Tech's offense versus Georgia Tech's defense, I like Virginia Tech's offense. I think they have two really good units. And an underrated part of this game, too, Georgia Tech's special teams has been really, really dismal this year. A lot of, Joey will tell you, a lot of special teams gaffes, a couple last week against Notre Dame they just simply couldn't have. It's been a trend. Their special teams haven't been great. Virginia Tech's haven't been fantastic either. But Georgia Tech's having issues with like field goal unit stuff, which Virginia Tech has not had issues with so far. So hopefully that continues. Give me the Hokies by 10 on Saturday at Lane Stadium. I think they get to 5-3. Guys, anything else before I get out of here?
I don't want to forget, we had talked about this in the group chat, but we'll reveal it on Saturday. We have a little bit of a special announcement that'll come out on Saturday. From Lane Stadium, I will be in attendance in the box. Andrew will be in the seats, and we have another certain somebody that'll be helping us out. We'll announce that on Saturday.
Yeah, no, Ricky is exactly right. The team grows. And by the way, I'm excited to see Ricky LeBlue for the second time this football season. Clock's ticking on Mike as usual. But I'll give a shout out to, first of all, you guys for carrying things while I went on my little adventure to Los Angeles last week. Shout out to the Mets. Good season. Losing to the Dodgers is, we'll accept it this year. Suddenly expectations will be risen again. And shout out to the Charlotte Hornets. Anyone watching the video feed, as I've been turning my head the entire time, the Hornets were down by like 18 points, came back and won. Charles Lee, assistant coach, Boston Celtics, now the head man of the Hornets.
Love you, Charles Lee.
And my friend just texted me, he built rum in a day. The Hornets are 1-0, the only B-related team I will root for, at least for the remainder of the week.
LaMelo Ball, 34, 11, and 8. Pretty solid start. Speaking of solid starts, Jason Tatum.
Oh, God.
Jump shots fixed, baby. We're going to repeat. We'll see you on the recap.
Jesus.
Go Hokies.